nothing is coming through online, or just certain things are coming through online?
It sounds like nothing, so.
Okay.
Not sure.
Corinne, I can hear everyone now perfectly. I could not before. I don't know if it was just me. Sorry. Hi, this is from the city attorney's office.
All right, thank you.
You can hear me? Okay, great.
Yes.
And I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can hear now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any hands raised at this time for general public comment?
I don't see any hands raised online.
Okay. With no hands raised online and no in-person comment cards, we'll go ahead and close public comment portion of our agenda. That moves us into section E of our agenda, the consent calendar. Tonight there is one item on our consent calendar, which is approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes from February 24th, 2025. Mr. Hochleitner, could you please call for public comment on the consent calendar?
As a reminder, during public comment period, members will have an opportunity to share their comments or questions remotely. Please click the hand icon on the lower part of your screen, upon which staff will introduce you and activate your microphone. For those calling into tonight's meeting, please click *9 on your keypad to notify staff you have a comment. Again, if multiple people are commenting from the same account, please let us know at the beginning of your time, and we'll make sure each person gets a chance to speak. For those participating in person, please fill out a comment card and bring it to me. I don't see any hands raised for online, and I don't have any comment cards.
All right, thank you. I will go ahead and close public comment then for the consent calendar. Do any commissioners wish to pull the item from consent calendar? All right, seeing no requests, I'm looking for a motion to approve. I have a motion first from Commissioner Baruzzi to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Farrick. All right, I will go ahead and call a vote. Commissioner Baruzzi?
Yes.
Vice Chair Eric?
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Sillen?
Yes.
Commissioner Silverstein?
Yes.
I am also a yes, so that's 6 votes yes, 1 absence. So the consent calendar passes and we move on. All right, we now move into agenda section F, the public hearing. We have 2 items in this component of our agenda this evening. The first, F1, is the agenda item regarding the use permit for 670 Cambridge Avenue. At this public hearing, the Commission may consider and adopt a resolution to approve a use permit to demolish an existing single-story, 2-unit multifamily residence and accessory building and construct a new 2-story single-family residence and detached garage on a substandard lot with regard to minimum lot width in the R2 or low-density apartment district, and determine this action is categorically exempt under CEQA guidelines sections 15303's class 3, exemption for new construction or conversion of small structures. The proposal also includes an attached accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, which is a permitted use and not subject to discretionary review. The project includes 1 development-related heritage tree removal, which was reviewed and conditionally approved by the city arborist. Commissioner Sillen.
Thank you, Chair Schindler. I wanted to disclose that my residence is within 500 feet of this project, and I plan to recuse myself during the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hochleitner, I believe you are the project planner this evening, and we have a presentation from the applicant as well. Is that correct?
Correct. I have Dave Pocket, who is the designer, and I have Gagan Kang with Thomas James Homes. They are both virtual tonight. They do have a short presentation to give us.
Great. Before we move on to the applicant's presentation, are there any updates to the staff report that the Commission should be aware of?
There are no additional updates to the staff report since its publication, and I would be happy to answer any additional questions you have.
Great. I'm going to suggest we let the applicant proceed with their presentation, and then we will do clarifying questions before we move into clarifying questions from the commission before we move into public comment on this agenda item. Welcome to the applicant, Mr. Kang and Mr. Pocket. Please proceed.
Thank you. So good evening to the Planning Commission. My name is Gagan Kang with Thomas James Homes. I'm a forward planning manager here. Thank you for the opportunity here to present 670 Cambridge. And we also have Dave Pocket, our project architect, on the Zoom call as well. And before I proceed further, Dave did want to go over one item. Dave, are you able to speak into the mic?
Is
No.
is he able to present?
Yeah, his microphone is unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything. Let me see.
Mr. Kang, is it possible to proceed and maybe circle back, or?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so on this slide, we have the existing home versus the proposed home. The proposed home is laid out in the red outline. The existing home being a single-story home, it had a greater lot coverage, so it's much larger. Our home is going to be 2 stories here, so we're going up, but we have a smaller footprint on the lot overall. So both of these homes, the previous existing home and the proposed home, both have a detached garage, and this is commonly found in the surrounding neighborhoods. As for site context, this is in the Allied Arts neighborhood, and this neighborhood consists of 1-story and 2-story homes, both renovated and new construction. Variety of materials found in this neighborhood, and that ranges from anywhere from stucco to siding, board and batten, cedar, shingles. And there's also several different elevations that are used in the Allied Arts neighborhood, such as modern, transitional, Spanish craftsman, farmhouse, and some evolving transitional style homes that are kind of a blend between different elevations. There's also a mix of 1- and 2-car garages in the Allied Arts neighborhood as well. So we just wanted to sort of copy what was existing, and we went with the 1-car garage here. Next slide, please.
Apologies, Mr. Kang. Is there any possibility you could just move a teeny bit closer to your microphone so we can hear you at full volume here in the chamber?
Yes, sure. On this slide, we have the tree removals. On this lot, we have a total of 9 trees. 8 which are on site, and 1 is considered an off-site tree. So we're proposing to remove 4 trees on site and 1 off-site. Of that, 3 are non-protected, 2 are heritage trees. We received a tree removal permit for our tree number 6, the blue Atlas cedar. And as far as our off-site tree, this was mutually agreed by our project arborist and the city arborist to remove this and replace it due to existing sidewalk issues. But again, having worked with Menlo Park, we try our best to design floor plans that try not to remove trees, and in some cases, like here, we do have 1 protected tree removal, and that's to develop the lot, right? Next slide, please. Now, this is our planting plan. We are proposing to add 5 new box trees. 3 of them, which are considered large at planting, they're 48-inch box trees. One's a 36-inch box tree and one 24-inch box tree. So this consists of the species here consists of one bay laurel tree, one Chinese pistache, one western dogwood, one camphor tree, one northern catalpa, and one trident maple, which is the replacement tree for the street tree removal. And this was recommended by the city arborist, Jillian Keller, so we went with the recommendation here. Next is the fence. The fence, we are proposing a 7-foot fence with no lattice. Next slide, please. So here is the first floor plan. We have the great room, kitchen, dining, and then the 1 bed, 1 bath ADU. And then you can also see the detached garage in the upper left-hand corner here. Next slide, please. So moving on to the 2nd story floor plan. The 2nd story will just have all the bedrooms. You have the primary in the back, and then you have the smaller bedrooms, which would be considered the kids' bedrooms, the 2 and 3. And then you have a full bathroom upstairs and the laundry room. Next slide, please. On this slide, we have the front and rear elevations. Next slide, please. And this is the left and right elevations. At the top is the right, and on the bottom is the left side elevation. Next slide, please. And this is the detached garage at the rear of the home. Next slide, please. So this here is the color board of the home. So our proposed home construction, it's designed to be visually as pleasant as possible while still conforming to the neighborhood and the jurisdictional design guidelines. At 670 Cambridge, we're proposing here a Spanish style elevation. And this consists of roof forms that are low pitched, both gable and hip. And then overall, this has an earth tone feel with the colors that we chose here. We are using concrete S-tiles for the roofing material. The color palette here, sort of an off-white exterior stucco, has a bit of a tan to it. And then we have a tad bit warmer brownish gray for the trim. So given the surrounding homes and the surrounding neighborhood, we believe that this home that's proposed here at 670 Cambridge, it goes well with the neighborhood. Next slide, please. And so that concludes our brief presentation. Myself from TJH and our project architect, Dave from Basinian, are here to answer any questions you have. Hopefully Dave's mic works now, and if not, I'll try my best to answer the questions.
Can we try one more time to get Mr. Pocket on the mic? Just so we can have him available for questions. Mr. Pocket, are you able to unmute your microphone?
Well, I can read, if it's okay with you, I can read his, there was a little correction that we had to make. So, quote unquote here, hi Guggen, I found a typo on our FAL on the floor plan sheet and the floor plan calculation sheets. The correct FAL of 2723 square feet is on the cover sheet. On our floor plans and square footage calculations, the total FAL is listed as 2710, which is incorrect. I found that the square footage polyline had taken out the water heater by the kitchen, which was an error. Again, the correct 2723 square feet proposed FAL is on the notes of the cover sheet. The allowable FAL is 2942 square feet. We are 219 square feet under the allowable FAL.
Thank you for sharing that update. Mr. Hochleitner, is there anything that the commission should be aware of in terms of changes in the staff report or analysis as a result of that update?
I don't believe so. They're still underneath their permitted floor area limit, even with that typo.
Thank you for the presentation. I'll give the commissioners here a chance to ask clarifying questions, and then we will move into public comment. Do commissioners have any clarifying questions, either for staff or the applicant? Vice Chair Eric.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think this is a question for staff or the applicant. I just want to confirm that this is a 2-unit, the current building that is there is 2 units, but 1 building. Is that correct?
The current structure that's there is, it's 2 units. It is, I believe, 2 structures that are connected with a carport, like an unenclosed garage between the 2 of them. But it is considered a 2-unit development that is currently there.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a follow-on question, a clarifying question, which is, in a situation like this, how will the count of housing units, how will this be accounted for in our housing element updates, specifically as it relates to our RHNA counts when we're going from 2 residences before to 1 residence and an ADU after?
So we discussed this with the city attorney's office when this project came in, and the current structure does not count as a housing development project in terms of SB 330. The replacement, this project is, would still satisfy the replacement 2 units because of the ADU. So it's, I believe, a net 0 on this, but maybe Ms. Sandmeyer might have an additional add.
Yeah, through the chair. So just as a clarification, I believe the existing development does count as a housing development under SB 330, but the replacement does not because it's considered a single-family residence, although the ADU would serve as a functional second unit. And I don't know, Miriam, if you had more to add to that.
No, I mean, you guys have said it. It's the ADU sort of functions as the second unit. And so as Connor said, it's a net 0. So
Thank you for confirming just that it's a net 0 as it relates to things like thinking about RHNA numbers. Do other commissioners have clarifying questions? Okay. Seeing no other clarifying questions, let's go ahead and call for public comment on item F1. Mr. Hochleitner, if you could please go ahead and open that up.
As a reminder, participants are allowed to participate, ask questions. If you click the hand icon on your screen in the lower left-hand corner, if you are participating via phone, please dial *9 on your keypad to alert staff that you have a comment. If you are participating in person, please fill out a comment card and bring it to me. I don't see any hands raised online, and I don't have any comment cards.
Okay.
I see some hands raised in the audience, but they are not.
All right. As there are no comment cards in person or raised hands, I will go ahead and close public comment on this item F1 and bring it back to the commission for discussion and ultimately a motion with regard to this use permit. Commissioner Baruzzi.
Yeah, I have a question for the applicant, if that's possible.
I believe they are still online,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yes, we're,
So this is I think I understand this to be an investment. So you've bought the property, you're redeveloping it, and you're going to probably put it on the market, right?
so this home actually
Or was
just sold. Yeah, this home just sold end of last week. So
Okay. So I'm curious though, because this lot is zoned R2 instead of R1, you had some options for what you were going to do with this. And I noted in the staff report that, it's an unusual lot that might make it a little more difficult to have 2 units, but I'm curious about whether or not you evaluated the possibility of putting 2 sort of full-size single-family homes on this property, which I know others in the neighborhood have done. And I'm curious from your perspective if that just doesn't seem to be as marketable, for lack of a better word, a development type, or I wonder if you could shed some light on that thought process for us.
So when we acquire a property, our feasibility team does look at its best use. And we did see, I believe on the rear.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Kong, I can't really hear you. Could you speak up a little bit?
Sure. Are you able to hear me now? Okay. So I said when we acquire a property, our feasibility team does look at its highest and best use. And we did see that there was a property at right behind us where they did have 2 homes on the lot on Partridge. But we evaluated this specific lot and decided to just build 1 house on it. I don't know the specific reason. I can follow up with you on that if you'd like tomorrow. But for one reason or another, we decided to build 1 home here. I know we have done in the past, and that was only 1 time out of the, I believe, 350 plus homes that we've built here in the last 6 years here in the Bay Area. I think we've only done it once where we put 2 homes on 1 lot. So I don't know specifically why we chose 1 here, but I can follow up with you if you like.
Thanks. It would be helpful if you had more thoughts to share on that. Obviously, it won't affect this particular project, but I think as a policymaking body like the City Council is trying to contend with a housing crisis, and when they set zoning policies, I think they're looking for, incentives for people to max out the housing on a given lot so that we can begin to address our housing crisis and begin to meet our RHNA numbers and things like that. So it's always helpful when we see, I think, a lot where, for whatever reason, the applicant has chosen not to build the number of homes they're theoretically able to build. It's helpful to understand why. So I would love more thoughts on that from you later if that's feasible, but thank you.
Okay, sounds good. So I will provide some feedback to Connor, if that's okay, and then our
Sure.
project planner, Connor, can forward that to you.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
And also, I would like to suggest, when we initially submit the project, if there's feedback like this, it would be because we also do a neighborhood meeting to, obtain feedback very early on. But when we submit this project into design review, if there was any sort of comment like this, it would be really helpful from the city as well.
Thank you. Vice Chair Eric.
While we're on the topic, I agree with all of Commissioner Baruzzi's comments, and to the applicant. As you're getting back to us with more information, I would just put a fine point on, or ask you to specifically address, are there policy changes that in this case would have made it more attractive or more economic for you to build 2 houses on this lot rather than 1? And if so, we would be very interested in hearing that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do. Noted.
Thank you. Commissioner Silverstein.
Yeah, as a very related follow-up on what the applicant just talked about in terms of when projects are initially submitted and they're looking for feedback, my question is for staff. I know that city staff is very involved with all of these various projects at many steps along the way, certainly well before it comes before Planning Commission. And my question is whether or not that perspective, the perspective that Commissioner Baruzzi mentioned around attempting to build the number of units that any given lot is zoned for, is that a perspective that staff takes to any given applicant as part of the discussion process?
I think that's a very good question. I think it's a little complicated to answer, but it generally is not the position of the planning division to design a project for an applicant. We can let them know what the lot is zoned for and what the land uses are permitted for the lot. But if they choose to build a single-family home on a lot where it is allowed, then I don't believe that it's our position to question their decision, but maybe Ms. Sandmeyer can add.
Yeah, through the chair. So I think we have at times certainly pointed things like that out. If the zoning allows more units, which is encouraged. I don't think it happened in this case, and that was likely because it was a smaller lot, but we can, it's certainly something we can comment on and probably should focus on. So thank you for the comment.
Commissioner Silverstein.
As a really quick follow-up, is it safe to say that City Council has not given direction to staff in order to attempt to persuade any given applicant to maximize the density of number of units for any given project?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think the direction comes through the housing element and those sorts of documents. I don't know about specific direction at a meeting or anything like that. But certainly, I think it is useful for us to provide that input when we see these types of projects. So that's a good reminder. Thank you.
Commissioner Baruzzi.
Sorry, one last question, and this may be verging a little bit too far away from the topic, but I'm curious if maybe it can come back at a later time. Are there communities where, considering no net loss and need for more housing, it's actually codified that one can't build fewer than the number of units permitted? So in other words, are there places around here where if you have an R2 lot, you're not allowed to replace 2 units with 1? Or is that not a thing?
Yeah, I'm not sure if, do you mean in neighboring cities? Is that the question? Yeah, I'm not sure about neighboring cities. I know there's, in some situations where it is a housing development project going to another housing development project. For example, if it's a lot with 3 units. I don't believe 2 could be rebuilt because of SB 330. And we may have some more information on that from the city attorney's office, but I think this is kind of a unique case where it's a smaller lot and a single-family home is proposed.
Can I, through the chair, ask?
Commissioner Farrick.
Thank you. Related, through the chair, thank you. I notice on this one, though, they have an ADU, so it would still technically count as 2, so I don't know that it would have been subject. If all of those things were true, they still might have said it is 2 units. So I'm not sure that it's applicable, but I appreciate the questioning. I'm just looking at this going, well, it's still technically 2. So, yeah, thank you.
Vice Chair Eric.
In terms of the project and the motion itself, not to preclude any other further conversation, it would be nice if the applicant were able to return to us with more information, but I'm supportive of this project and happy to make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
So we have a first and a second, first from Vice Chair Eric and a second from Commissioner Peruzzi to approve the resolution to grant the use permit. Before I call the vote, I will make one comment to the applicant, which is not influencing my vote one way or the other. It appears from the plans that the driveway gate is in front of, or more specifically, the ADU entry. The door from the outside in is on the inside of the driveway gate, and that they overlap fairly significantly. I think it looks like a bad experience for someone who's trying to use that door. I also think that having the ADU entry on the outside of that gate gives you greater flexibility in the future about how that ADU is inhabited and or potentially commercially rented. That is not a condition of approval. It's an observation and a directional line of feedback. Are there any, Commissioner Farrick?
Just a real quick design comment. Plan to support the motion. Just wanted to thank the applicant for, correcting any existing project setback issues, as well as not fully maxing out on height and being mindful of the daylight plane. And I think it's a nicely designed, balanced, beautiful home.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from commissioners before we move to a vote? All right, so I am calling for approval of the use permit as specified in staff resolution. Commissioner Peruzzi.
Aye.
Vice Chair Eric.
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sillen is recused himself. Commissioner Silverstein.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So that is 5 yes votes, 1 absence, and 1 recusal. And so the resolution moves forward. Thank you. We wish you best of luck. Appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's just take a 60-second pause while we bring Commissioner Sillen back in for our next agenda item. All right, we will now move on to item F2. This agenda item addresses the use permit at 340 Nova Lane. At this public hearing, the commission may consider and adopt a resolution to approve a use permit to demolish an existing single-story, single-family residence and the detached garage and construct a new 2-story, single-family residence on a substandard lot with regard to width, depth, and area in the R1U or single-family urban residential zoning district, and determine this action is categorically exempt under CEQA Guidelines 15303's Class 3 exemption for new construction or conversion of small structures. The proposal also includes an attached accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, which is a permitted use and not subject to discretionary review. Ms. Khan, I believe you are the planner for this project and that the applicant homeowner is also present, correct?
Good evening, Chair Schindler, members of the Planning Commission, and everyone in attendance. That is correct. I am the planner on the project, and we do have the property owners, Karen and Nick Staubach, along with their children in attendance with us today. So they're here to answer any questions that you may have. And really quickly, staff does not have any updates to the staff report. Thank you.
All right, you have anticipated my question. As there are no staff updates from staff, welcome to the applicant and homeowner. We are happy to have you here. If you wanted to say something, you are more than welcome. Let's be sure we get that microphone. Is that on, turned on, Mr. Hochleitner? Okay, perfect.
Residents of 340 Nova Lane, and we're excited to be here. It's been a long journey for us. So some context, we're working parents. We brought our 4 kids primarily because we think it's important for them to understand this process and that it's not just a snap and a finger in getting our home built. Additionally, we moved to 340 Nova Lane about 6 years ago. Our home is currently 1,600 square feet when you include a detached garage. And so you can imagine, we initially had 3 kids, but now we have 4 kids that were slightly bursting at the seams, especially as they get bigger. And some things that have changed too in the past 6 years. Unfortunately, my dad passed away, so my mom spends a ton of time with us through the year. And we have plans for her to actually move in, and therefore why we've considered adding an attached ADU. And so, you know, for us, it's really the home that we want to build for our family, both, you know, for our kids to grow up and to thrive. They all go to Laurel, but also for my mom into sort of her golden years. And we really value being in Menlo Park, so we wanted really hard to make this work for us, even given sort of the substandard smaller lot. And, you know, Nova Lane is a special place too. We have a few neighbors from Nova Lane on call in here, but it's a special cul-de-sac where we're fairly close with each other and support each other as a community. So we're excited to hopefully continue to build our home and our family and our lives here in Menlo Park.
Yeah, and we're open to address any questions. We've been working very closely with our architects who are not on the call, but we're happy to take questions.
Yeah, about the design.
Great.
Exactly.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Before we move into public comment, do commissioners have any clarifying questions for the applicant or for staff? Commissioner Silverstein.
I have just a quick clarifying question for staff. The project description on page A20 of the staff report talks about the existing structure having a detached 1-car garage, and then the data table in attachment C talks about there being 2-car parking. I'm just, not that it's particularly relevant, but I'm just wondering if there's a discrepancy there.
Thank you, Commissioner Silverstein. When looking at the existing floor plans, you will see that the dimensions of the existing detached garage are 20 feet and a couple of inches with 18 feet, couple of inches in width. And historically, 18 by 18 foot garages have been considered as 2-car garages.
Okay, but the specific text in the existing description says 1 car, so again, it doesn't actually matter.
Technically, however, staff will rely on the data table and the plan sets in the future whenever somebody's looking at it, so it's fine.
Are there any other clarifying questions before we move into public comment? All right, seeing none. Mr. Hochleitner, could you please call for public comment on this item? And you are welcome to sit or stand.
As a reminder for those participating online, please click the hand icon on your screen if you have a comment or a question. If you are participating on the phone, please click *9 on your keypad to alert staff that you have a comment. If more than one person is commenting, please let us know at the beginning of your time so that we can give each person the right amount of time. If you're participating in person, please bring a comment card to me. I don't have any comment cards, and I don't see any hands raised. Oh, I do see one hand raised online. So Jory McDonald, you may begin speaking.
Yeah, thank you. And it looks like I'm not able to turn on my camera, so apologies. But I'm another resident of Nova Lane, live at 311 Nova Lane, a couple houses down, and I've been here about a decade now. So actually met the Starbucks when they moved in and have seen their family expand in the current house that they are in, which was small even when they moved in. They're really strong members of our community. Volunteering at school and in other regards, and just supportive neighbors in general. So really value them as community members. I also do a lot of volunteering at the school and see them regularly there. So it extends even beyond just our small cul-de-sac. I see this plan as the only reasonable way that they can stay on Nova Lane and in the Willows neighborhood with their growing family. And so I've had a chance to review the plans. They were gracious enough to share those with me, and just wanted to say I am supportive of this project. I think it really is necessary for them to be able to remain strong members of this community. That's all.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other hands raised for public comment on F2?
I don't see any additional hands raised, and I don't have any comment cards from the gallery.
All right, then I will go ahead and close public comment on item F2 and bring the conversation back to the commission for discussion and ultimately a motion on the use permit. Do we have any questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Farrick.
Thanks. Hi. Yes, this is, I think, for staff, probably the project planner. What was the conversation or guidance from staff on how the daylight plane is exceeded and in one pretty narrow, but more significantly than I've seen in the last few years by any other project? Like what was the staff feedback to the applicant for that?
Thank you, Commissioner Farrick, for your question. Staff did work closely with the applicant with regards to the daylight plane intrusion. The applicant worked it out that it fit in within the guidelines that has been provided under the daylight plane requirements. Intrusions are allowed on lots less than 10,000 square feet, and there's a certain, there's a ratio between how much the daylight plane can intrude depending on the side setback requirement. In this particular scenario, based on how much intrusion was allowed, this is the design that the applicant team came up with.
Got it. Thank you. Can I make a follow-up comment on my own question? I find it, and this has nothing to do with how I feel about the project, but it's interesting that there's exclusions for lots under 10,000 when that's why the daylight plane matters, but that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. I have a minor question for city staff. This is the first project that I can remember in which there's a reference to a developed but inaccessible space on the roof. Could you clarify just what, and I cannot recall seeing anything along those lines in the zoning ordinances. Can you clarify what the criteria would be here for something to be developed but considered inaccessible and therefore not count against the metrics, quantification of the size of the space?
Thank you, Chair Schindler, for your question. We worked extensively with the applicant. The applicant was very interested in utilizing the flat roof, and they're very fond of plants, so they wanted a green roof. We went back and forth. That is correct. There's nothing in the zoning ordinance. However, we then have to look at the building permit requirements as to what deems an area accessible, like living versus non-living area. Based on conversations with our partners in the building division, what the applicant has shown is deemed as adequate as being an inaccessible space. Although there is a balcony that will overlook this green area, it will be distinguished or divided with a guardrail. And additionally, the applicant is proposing to have an irrigation system that they would use and maintain in order to have regular maintenance not be done by a person. Additionally, the area will have about 6 inches or so guard, like parapet around that would preclude someone from utilizing that space as a balcony.
Thank you. I think that the most helpful thing that I would do in the next step is to just go look at some of the building department guidelines and some of the things that it sounds like governed what is considered occupied space versus unoccupied space, even if there is development in the form of an irrigation system or planter beds or whatever. So I think knowing that this is within the parameters that the building department sets forth is helpful. Other commissioners have questions?
Just a few design questions.
Please, Commissioner Farrick.
Thanks. On one of the plan sheets on, it's the east-west section 1, let me zoom out. A3.2, there's a piece next to the, under the hall stairway called open to exterior. And I'm curious, I've never seen any element like that. Is there, I don't know if this is an applicant or a staff question, but I don't know what that is or represents.
Yeah, so that's located before this, underneath the stairwell, and the kitchen is just on the other side of that wall, and we wanted to have some kind of natural light coming into the kitchen. And so what we did to enable that is basically bring the outer wall, the exterior wall, in for that portion, so that there's actually a window. It's not shown in the section because the section isn't aligned with where the window is there. It's a couple inches off. But if you look at the elevation, you'll see there's a window that's letting natural light into the kitchen. The kitchen sink is right there looking out there. So that was the purpose of this element.
Okay, I think I get it. That's so, so it is a kind of a window to the kitchen, just kind of, and it goes sort of from the ground to the top, but it's not a door.
No, exactly. I mean, because of the floodplain, the actual floor is actually, 2.5,
Raised.
almost 3 feet up.
Uh-huh.
And then the stairwell that's going to the second floor is coming up above that, and that limits how far up that can go. So it's actually underneath the stairwell.
Okay.
And then otherwise we can't make the window. The window is basically as wide and as tall as it can be to fit underneath the stairs right there.
Okay, I'll have to trust you on that one. The other question I had while you're up is, and this is definitely an applicant question, the ADU, I haven't seen an ADU where there's an upstairs bedroom and bath above a downstairs, and I guess, we aren't planning necessarily, we have to plan beyond in-laws living with you. It is an unusual configuration, and I guess I'm curious why you picked a 2-story rather than a 1-story for the ADU.
Yeah, I think we, mainly for the ADU, we're looking to maximize the space for that. So when our mother-in-law lives there, she'll probably, as long as she's able, she'll probably stay upstairs. And I imagine our kids will be visiting regularly, and so the extra space is useful.
Great. And then I guess my question for staff on the same topic is, how flexible are ADU projects? Like, let's say it's an ADU in this configuration for the next 20 years, and then in some future year would either this family or the future owner of this property be able to keep the space and that same square footage as an ADU, but reconfigure it so that the bedroom and bathroom are on the ground levels to make it more accessible, should that person want to do that at that time?
Thank you, Commissioner Farrick. That is a very good question. That is definitely something that staff would need to evaluate once we do receive a proposal like that for reconfiguration. Definitely reconfiguration is possible given that tonight we are looking at the floor area limit of the development. So we are looking at the main house and the ADU that is in exceedance, which is allowed.
Yep.
However, if they wanted to completely remove the ADU and try to recoup some of that square footage, those are some hypothetical situations that I'm talking about that staff would need to evaluate once we do receive a proposal from the applicant.
Okay, and yeah, I'm just curious because I'm thinking, I mean, we all have probably people we want to have age in place, maybe myself, and I could foresee a single story being more desirable, but I'm just curious about the rules around flexibility as we approve all these. So hopefully there will be policy in the future that allows for that flexibility, provided they retain the space as the ADU. That's just my 2 cents.
If I may, I did want to also clarify the open space that you previously asked about. If we look at sheet A 1.1, which would be page 96 of the packet, that shows the area that the property owner was talking about, the area that is open, and we see the sink right under there. It is because where the section cut was done, it shows as an open space.
Got it, so it's like inset.
That is correct.
Okay, I think that's what I wasn't quite visualizing on that other elevation. Thank you. I agree, sinks and daylight are a good combo. Thank you.
Do other commissioners have comments? And if not, ultimately moving to a motion potentially. Commissioner Silverstein.
I have one question for staff, which isn't specific to this project. But in reading the arborist report, there's a paragraph here that talks about the homeowner exploring shifting the location of the driveway to minimize impacts to tree 1H. And in that paragraph, it talks about, because it says, since a 2-car garage was required for the home, and then it goes on. And my specific question is, in a project like this, if the homeowner wanted to only have a 1-car garage when we require 2, would that be an exception that the Planning Commission could theoretically grant? And is that something that a homeowner could choose to bring as a exception?
Thank you for your question, Commissioner Silverstein. Yes, the zoning ordinance does require 2 parking spaces, one of which needs to be covered. So a homeowner could decide if they wanted a 2-covered garage or carport versus 1 and 1 uncovered space. However, if I heard your question correctly, I'm guessing that scenario looks like either a single car garage and carport and no uncovered space?
Yeah, let's assume that there's only space to park 1 car because they only have 1 car and wouldn't foresee the need for another one.
Sure, absolutely. So in those scenarios, we do require the applicants to request a variance because it would be a reduction in what is required from our zoning ordinance. So the Planning Commission could review a variance request for a parking reduction.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other questions or comments from commissioners. And if that is the case, perhaps we shall move towards a motion with regard to the proposed resolution from staff. Commissioner Farrick.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the use permit for this project on Nova Lane.
Great. We have a first for an approval from Commissioner Farrick.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Silverstein. If there's no further conversation, all right, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. On F2, Commissioner Peruzzi.
Yes.
Vice Chair Eric.
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Sillen.
Aye.
Commissioner Silverstein.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So that is 6 yeses with 1 absence. Thank you very much for being here this evening. We wish you the best of luck. And thanks to staff as well. All right, that closes the public hearing component of our agenda this evening. We do have section G, or the public meeting component of our agenda. There were 2 items on the agenda, but staff has recommended that both of those items be continued to our next meeting, which is March 24th, 2025. However, I will go ahead and make sure that we give adequate sort of vetting by reading these, just giving an overview of what the proposed agenda item was, and then calling for public comment should members of the public have set aside time to participate. So item G1 is the Housing Element Annual Progress Report for the City of Menlo Park. And the commission was to consider and adopt a resolution recommending the City Council accept the 2024 Annual Progress Report regarding the status and implementation of the city's 2023 to 2031 General Plan Housing Element. The Housing Element Annual Progress Report is not considered a project under CEQA. So as I mentioned, this has been proposed to be continued until March 24th, 2025. Mr. Hochleitner, could you please call for public comment on this agenda item before we move into commission discussion?
As a reminder, for those participating online, please click the hand icon on your screen if you wish to participate. If you're calling in, press *9 on your keypad. I don't see anybody here in the chamber, and I don't have any comment cards.
All right, then I will go ahead and close public comment on G1, the Housing Element Annual Progress Report, and bring it back to the dais here for the commission. Do any commissioners have any discussion points or questions about the proposal to postpone this until the 24th? Okay. May I have a motion to continue this to the 24th? Commissioner Baruzzi first. I will go ahead and second that and call a vote on the proposal to continue this to the March 2024 meeting. Commissioner Baruzzi?
Yes.
Commissioner Eric?
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Sillen?
Yes.
Commissioner Silverstein?
Yes.
I am also a yes, so we are 6 in favor with 1 absence. Ms. Sandemeyer, is that adequate in order to have us continue this until March 24th?
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you.
Perfect. I think we'll just briefly then replicate our process for the second element that was proposed for the public meeting component of our meeting, which was the G2, the Environmental Justice Element Annual Progress Report for Menlo Park. The commission was to consider and adopt a resolution recommending the City Council accept the 2024 Annual Progress Report regarding the status and implementation of the city's General Plan Environmental Justice Element. The Environmental Justice Element Annual Progress Report is not considered a project under CEQA. Mr. Hochleitner, could you please call for public comment on G2?
As a reminder, please click the hand icon on your screen if you wish to participate, or press *9 on your keypad if you're calling in. I don't see any hands raised, and I don't have any comment cards.
Thank you for checking. I will go ahead and close public comment on G2. The update on the environmental justice element. Do we have any discussion or comments from commissioners with regard to the proposal to continue this to the 24th?
First.
We have a first from Commissioner Silverstein.
Second.
And a second from Vice Chair Eric. All right. I shall go ahead and call the vote. Commissioner Baruzzi?
Aye.
Vice Chair Eric?
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Sillen?
Yes.
Commissioner Silverstein?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So that is 6 in favor of continuing G2 to our next meeting and 1 absence, which closes up section G, the public meeting component of our agenda, and moves us into H, informational items. Ms. Sandemeyer, would anyone from staff like to provide an update on upcoming Planning Commission meetings or any other relevant informational items?
So for the next meeting, that's March 24th, we have 2 single-family homes, a hazmat use permit, and then annual progress report on the general plan, and the 2 items that were continued tonight, the environmental justice element and the housing element annual progress reports. And then the next meeting would be April 14th, and we don't have an agenda solidified for that meeting.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions about those? Commissioner Selin?
Thanks. I was wondering about the progress reports. Is there any action or recommendation that the Planning Commission takes for items like that? This is my first time reviewing that. Just want to anticipate it. Thank you.
Yes, so the Planning Commission reviews those, and then I believe there's a recommendation, and then they go to City Council.
And the recommendation is to approve the report. Is that right?
Yeah, if that's what the commission votes on, or there can be comments.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other hands raised or questions from commissioners, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 8:07. Thank you all.